Okay. All right. This is Turning the Tide, Bridging the Divide between Black and Arab people. And I'm Alexandria, pronouns she and her. I am an activist, also behavior therapist and coordinator, Black woman, and I am happy to be here.
Awesome. Hi, Ali. All right, everyone. My name is Afeefeh. I am an Arab American Muslim woman, an artist, and an activist. And I'm happy to be here as well.
Hi, Ali. Hi, Afeefeh. I'm Zeinab. My pronouns are she and her. I am a student and an activist, and I'm happy to be with you guys too.
Very cool. Let's get started. I have a few suggestions or questions, I guess we should, of topics that we should talk about. What do you think, and to segue into that, what do you think the similarities are between the different cultures that exist under the BIPOC umbrella, I guess? What are the similarities between how they approach mental health and getting help for that, and just taking care of our well-being?
Similarities, I guess, like, our struggles are definitely linked because the root cause of it is the same.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say that's a similarity. And the barriers to get help are somewhat similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in terms of like our cultures, like it's not really something talked about as much.
Exactly.
From even friends I know that aren't Black, like it's still, that might be Hispanic, or it's still like kind of like something that's not talked about. I would definitely say that's a similarity.
For sure. I definitely. Oh, go ahead, Zeinab.
I'm sorry if I may add on that. I was just telling the story about how I am very fortunate to grow up in a household that is very open minded, very about feelings and let's talk about it and what's going on. But I know in the community in general, when you talk about mental health, it's basically non-existent. And if you say if someone is feeling some type of way, I don't want to mix the culture and the religion because those are two different things. But I'm going to go ahead from, as a Muslim woman, as a person that has been, let's say, in a Muslim group, and someone talks about they are feeling down or they are feeling lonely, they're kind of in the blues, but more actually they're depressed. Okay. In the group, I remember someone was saying, you know what, just pray, or there's going to be hope. Of course, there's hope. But that person, if he had hope, then he wouldn't be in the situation. They are losing hope. That's why they need the help that they deserve. But instead, a person will go, there's hope, you should pray. Well, obviously, let's say as a Muslim person, from that perspective, they know that, but they are in loss of hope. They need somehow to speak with someone, to navigate their way, to see how hope is, what is hope again, because they truly have lost hope in the situation. That's why they are that way. So yes, it's basically non-existent, and we really have to be more wise with our choice and words of choice, because you are talking with a person who is depressed, who has anxiety, who is suffering from post-traumatic disorders, who has many, many different things. We have to be more educated how to talk with a person that has mental health not issues, just mental health in general. We all have somehow, some way gotten to a way and we didn't know what to do. So we all have to be more educated in a way of how to speak with someone on that level. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to address both of those points, in the BIPOC, by the way, so it's Black, Indigenous, people of color, right? So in these different communities, there is the stigma, right, stems from a lack of education about what that even is, right? So if we were to want to like confront these stigmas, it would start off before even people had these issues, right? So in my perspective, I've definitely had people say that, oh, you can pray, you can read Quran, you can do all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm praying that I can see a therapist type of thing. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I definitely have the spiritual aspect and I do all these religious aspects, but the thing is, when we're trying to train ourselves in our mind and have a stronger like mental stability, I guess you could say, and try to confront all of our issues, that requires, and I don't want to say sciences, though it's something that's 100% like unbiased, right? Like obviously science has biases in racism and class and all that kind of stuff, but these are things that have been studied and attempted to understand and all that kind of stuff. And so they are a parallel approach, I think we should say, to the spiritual thing. They shouldn't be separated as in like they're opposing. They're two different things that like tie into each other. You know what I mean? I do want to be able to say, hey, if I'm having these intrusive thoughts, this, and this, like that doesn't happen when you're just going at it from a religious perspective. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're talking to people who are religious figures who don't have training in these types of things, who aren't trained in psychology and mental health and all those different categories. So people think that they're opposing, and we're really trying to explain, or really trying to clarify that it's not something that is going to say, hey, don't be religious, or hey, don't have these spiritual aspects to you, but instead something that will even strengthen them at some point. So that's it from that perspective, for sure. Extremely valuable. And I think it's not just relegated to Muslims. This is also exists in Christianity. It's very much a cultural thing. There's just whatever the excuse or the distraction, I don't want to say distraction, the point that is used to say, hey, don't do therapy, hey, don't worry about this stuff, just do this type of thing. So whatever that is, you know? So what do you guys think are some other ways of dismantling the stigma around getting and seeking help for our mental health issues?
I think one of the things is actually having, I know you can't force someone, let's say, no one can force me or force you at people or force Ellie, hey, be a therapist, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But we should have, let's say, more people within our communities who are therapists, because that is basically half of its work. Because if I see someone, a Muslim woman, because I'm more, let's say, comfortable with a Muslim woman, she doesn't have to be Arab in that way, but let's say a Muslim woman who kind of understands my background in a way, I will feel much more comfortable to go talk to her. If Ellie sees someone, let's say, that who is a Black woman, okay, or a Black man, who will probably understand what she's going through. So if we see more people that look like us, representation obviously always matters, and especially in these situations. If I see someone who looks like me, I'm gonna be much more motivated in a way. That's half of its work. I found someone who looks like me. I can go talk with them. You know, they understand what I'm going through, let's say, culturally, religiously, but they understand from what perspective I'm coming from. They can help me. But rather, if let's say I'm coming from someone who has no idea like what my religion is, what my background is, what anything is, and they're gonna somehow, even though it's their job, but somehow at the end of the day, they're gonna dismiss some of the things that I'm saying because they don't understand it, and they're gonna think, oh, culture, what is that? Because they don't have it. So it's most importantly is having someone that can look like us, that will help us through it, because that's half of its work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. That is definitely half the battle. Just having people that from our communities doing this work that are therapists, you know, psychologists. It's so many places I see that have have therapists, have, but it's, I don't see many like Black women, Black men in that role. And I would like to see more of that. And seeing that will make you want to do it more. I know for me, when I see different virtual events or different things where where it is talking about mental health, it makes me want to be more involved. And that's what got me more, I guess, comfortable talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, Joy DeGroy. She is a psychologist, an author. She has a book named Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And things like that, having people like that to guide me and many other Black people through this process is what it's all about. And also that speaks to being trauma informed. You are someone that comes from our backgrounds, so like for me, having someone who was Black, and then for other cultures, having someone from your guys' communities, that person's more likely to be trauma informed.
Mm-hmm.
There's trauma that comes with being Black, the background of just it's a lot to think about, but there's a lot that comes with that. And we need you to be trauma informed if you're responding to me, if you're trying to help me. If you don't know that, then there's nowhere I'm gonna start with you. Like there's nothing we can talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, it is half the battle to just have people who are informed in our trauma, in our cultures, in our backgrounds. I personally have had success with somebody who was not necessarily completely in my culture or my religion, but the way that we connected was on various things. So as long as there's a form of connection, as long as there's something that'll allow them to be able to meet you on the level of where you're at, I think that's ultimately like a very, very important aspect. And I also think, like Allie, like you've been saying, having months like these, right? And the events that you've been having, like the panel that you had yesterday, those are extremely important in getting these conversations out and having them on a less formal level, I think, because people think therapy is an extremely serious thing. So having things that are like stepping stones to having these conversations, to really looking into ourselves and seeing where we relate to people who are doing the work, So I've watched videos on YouTube and that changed my life. Like something as simple as that, or seeing, I know we make fun of infographics, but a lot of them are really helpful. I mean, they exist for a reason, And I do want to say that there is danger around believing everything you see on the internet, or just completely trusting somebody because they have the same identity as you and all that kind of stuff. We definitely need to be informed in what it is that we're searching for and who we are. And of course, that comes with a lot of work. So that's my 2 cents about that. But I really did want to ask you guys, and before we on, Zeinab, did you have a point to add to that? Okay, Allie?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, no, I agree with all that. Yeah, and it's not just about how someone looks. They can very well lead you down the wrong path. It's about knowing, all those things, knowing about the trauma, knowing that comes with it. I've had success, younger in high school with someone who wasn't Black, and but it was limited, of course. But no, I completely agree.
Yeah, the limitation part, that's extremely important. Like they can help you, I think, to a certain degree, because then you sort of hit a wall and you're like, well, the tools that you've given me, I can use to move on from here, but there's really nothing that you and I can have like regarding these conversations type of thing. Absolutely. I do want to ask, aside from these types of panels and stuff like that, what are other ways that we can go about really identifying how the stigma manifests itself and addressing those, So I think to start off, in conversations with family, I mean, a lot of our issues, if we even get to the point of being vulnerable enough to express them, are really brushed under the rug. They're really, and not even just from a religious perspective, like, oh, go pray about it, but it's almost not being taken seriously, to the extent that, as from childhood even, we really don't take children's psyches seriously. And then we grow up and we have all these issues stemming from trauma. And it's just like, how do you guys think that we should go about really addressing this? Or even just keeping an open mind about it?
Are you saying from a family, like?
Yeah, let's start with the family perspective. I think that's kind of like the core component of these conversations.
That's an amazing question, because I know so there's a lot. Well, let's go ahead and start saying most of mental health issues start from the upraising of a child. Abandonment, anxiety, self-image, all of these come from when you are getting raised. So I think, wow, just wow. But this question alone, I know sometimes it takes within its words. Let's say you go to therapy, okay, fine. Then how are you going to come and tell, let's say, your parents that? Yeah, that's a great one. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say, because I'm saying I'm very fortunate, and I don't really know how others can, but let's say from someone who, I don't know what perspective we can take that from. Let's say I was very fortunate enough to have, we're all talking again. We talk about our feelings constantly. Sometimes it can get annoying, but let's say you can come with, oh wow, I have no idea. I'm so sorry.
That's an answer. Yeah. No, really, what you're saying right now is an answer. You have had an upbringing where you were allowed to express yourself, where you were allowed to talk about these things,
Yes. Yes, you can say it in that way. My mom always would say that, and this is what I absolutely like, that she would say, I'm a human, you're a human. If you guys feel like something about me raising you is off, come and talk to me.
Wow.
I can say it. And and I know, yes, so sometimes even
amazing.
We just had a like about an hour ago, we had this conversation. My mom was telling me something, and then she told my brother, and my brother was like, I don't like how you said that. She's like, wait, what about it that you don't like? And he told her what. She's like, okay, thank you. Next time I'll keep it in mind. So that's how I came. My mom would always say, I'm a human, you're a human. The only thing is I'm older than you. But because it's her first time being a parent, and it's our first time being a child. So if we feel there's something off, go ahead and share it. Maybe we can start like this. If you're a new parent right now, okay, or if you are trying to have a family, you're the first time being a parent, and he or she are the first time becoming a child. So how about you set from the ground that you want to break that, that generational curse, that generational trauma, or whatever it is.
Yeah. I have a question. Was it?
Yes.
Because it's an open, it's open, like you can talk to your family about anything. Was it even like that for mental health? Like it was everything?
Yes. My mom actually, mental health was a big one. I actually had to go through some very traumatic things about 3 years ago. My mom begged me for a good year and a half. She would make appointments for me to go see a therapist. But due to stigmas in our community, I was stubborn and refused to go see a therapist. She would make an appointment after an appointment, in person, online. My mom didn't really matter who the therapist was, as long as her daughter saw a therapist. But due to the stigma that's around it, I didn't want anyone to perceive me as mental or she needs an institution. So this is why I refused therapy for a good year and a half. But then when I really, literally, I couldn't take it anymore, I actually started seeking for myself. And then when I started to see a therapist, the first therapist I liked, the first session was it was kind of weird, but then I didn't like her. So I moved on. And that therapist that I have right now, I've been with that therapist for a good 7 months. And that therapist is amazing. And I actually had to look for her because it was very hard, again, to find someone that is understanding my culture, understanding my religion, understanding me. We don't have to be 100%, but at least we have similarities. as you said before, something that we can talk about, you know? It's not for her to sit and tell her, you know what, I really refused to come to see you at first because of, you know, X, Y, and Z. She's like, oh, okay. And like, I needed someone to understand why I couldn't come and see her. Like, yes, my parents are open about this. Yes, my parents pushed me to come see you, but I couldn't see you. I don't know how the community would see me as. So I needed someone to understand that I'm even coming to you, but I'm kind of iffy about it. So that's what I needed someone to see. But I'm very happy and I'm very lucky that I have a therapist that is understanding in that way. Truly, in all meaning, she's really a therapist, not someone who's just there so they can like listen to your problems and then that's it. So yeah.
Yeah, like it for me, it was like, you know, I don't know, trying to get people to that place is hard. I would say my mom was very open and just real with us, like about life, about what we might experience, even if we didn't want to hear it. Like she just always, if something happened to you at school, let me know. She's asking the direct questions like, what happened? Like, yeah, she was just real. But in terms of mental health, it's a different story. That's not something we talked about at all. Uh, you know, growing up, I did grow up Muslim. Um, you know, my dad, he was Muslim or he's Muslim. And uh, yeah, and that's not something we talked about there when my mom and him were together. That's not something I talked about with my family, period. Uh, and I think back about different things that have happened and I see like people definitely need therapy. I've always been the one into mental health. I've grappled with it myself, and I feel like I've gotten to a good place now in terms of understanding how important it is. It is like something I need, everybody needs. Like I'm very, very attached to it now. But getting other people there is the struggle. I learned that my grandmother went through depression when she passed. Is when I learned about that. And my sister goes through that. And that makes sense as to where the link is on that. In terms of like, you know, knowing about your family, going back to that. And excuse me, but sorry.
You're good.
But yeah, that goes back to knowing like your family background. Because with that, I knew if I would have knew that, that would have made more sense. If my mom would have knew that, that would have made more sense in terms of their relationship, why she was the way she was. But you know, in that time, it's not like something she was going to admit to the world. Thinking, you know, when my grandmother was raised, she's told me we would talk weekly, but she's told me on like phone calls about like her mother and how her father was killed, you know, like killed, or no, her grandfather, excuse me, her grandfather was killed in the South by a Klan member. That is what happened to them. And, you know, when I think about that, and I know that, and then I know my grandmother is a very strong woman, you wouldn't know anything was wrong with her or at all. She always, you know, life what she could, the best way she could. But like there's those many layers that were buried in the family and made us come to a lot of realizations now. And I feel like that's helped me get to a better place with breaking the stigma, finding out how to grapple with it, and knowing, being okay, knowing that you have trauma and that it's something that you can work through. Like just knowing you have it, like it's nothing bad to say. Like it's okay to say it. It's okay to not be okay, and knowing that is what's helped me. Last year in particular, with everything that happened, was very emotional, and knowing there's still work to do. Yeah. But yeah, it's for me, it's a conversation that's more prevalent now, and I'm glad it is. But it's been a rocky road, and it still could be better with my family. but it's not lost. So I'll say I'm happy it's not completely lost.
Yeah.
If I may add something, you said something that nobody knew that your grandma was going through depression, or she didn't talk about it, or that whole thing wasn't even coming up. But if you want to go through that, let's say it's journey of healing, okay, that whole thing. Sometimes, if let's say your grandma, your mom, your aunt, your sister, sometimes they can't admit to themselves that they have a problem, and it's sometimes better just to, you can't give up on them, because like you can't, but to let them be until they come to their own realization that they need their own help. Because sometimes I feel like you do your own work, you move on, but don't leave them behind just quite yet. But at the same time, let them come for their own realization. Because sometimes, again, let's say I've been 35 years, living like, yeah, I understand I have depression, but I haven't said it out loud. And just to say it out loud, all of a sudden go to therapy is kind of hard. So let them come to their own senses of their own healing, that they truly need the help that they do. I think it's better than us just pressuring them. Me do my own healing, understand myself, go to therapy. So they see an example in front of them, like, oh, you know what, my sister, my daughter, my granddaughter, she's going to therapy, she's understanding what's going on with her. So maybe we can do that. That's in a way of breaking the stigma. You set an example. Even if you have kids, even at the younger age, yeah, my mom went to therapy, and like that's the best thing. Like right now, if you meet with someone, wait, you don't go to therapy? You think therapy is like a blah? No, you're a blah. You need to leave. You need right now therapy.
That is good. Yeah, like setting an example. That's perfect. Like that is, because that's true. Like you don't want to pressure them to start talking about it, because it's a very sensitive thing.
Of course, yes.
And in ways, like somehow, like you saying that, like I'm realizing I've kind of done that for my family, because they haven't come around to it, but I've been like aware of it. The only one like really championing it, I guess you call it. And yeah, I know with my brother last summer, my younger brother, all that had a really big effect on him. And he was just like asking like me questions like, why does this happen to us? Like, why? And he's like, 20. Yeah. So being there for him and not judging him, and, as a Black man, having tears and having these wonders at work and feeling down, me not judging him and just saying like, why are you're a guy, or, like those kind of, toxic masculinity is very strong, and not using those techniques while he's in that mode, but instead recognizing that he's there for his well-being, really set an example. And now that you're saying that, I'm realizing that,
Yeah. So creating space, basically.
Yes.
Just having the boundaries that you are doing the work that you need to do. Because 100%. At least in my experience, there will be people who will try to stop you from seeing a therapist. There will be people who try to diminish the work that you've been doing. So having those strong boundaries, saying, no, I'm doing the work that I need to do. I'm healing, I'm growing. And then creating space around you in the outskirts, so that people can feel safe to go through whatever it is that they need to go through, whether they're ready to talk to somebody or not, whether they're ready to do the work or not, for sure. And to address both of your points, generational trauma is pretty much like, not to say that you won't go through trauma throughout your life, because obviously things happen to you, right? And we did say the family was the center, but even as you said, Zeinab, even having a supportive family, you'll still be influenced by outside factors. You'll still be influenced by the community, right? So 100%. having those supportive family, extremely important, but also recognizing that just there's so much work to do both in and outside. And the generational trauma factor, like with your grandma and then your sister, Ali, I cannot emphasize how much generational trauma influences us. And just just knowing about their issues, like you said, changes the game. Because if the older I get and the more I learn about my family, the more so many of my problems become clear to me. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, there's a reason I was having anxiety attacks at literally 3 years old. Like, okay,
Yes, 100%.
you know,
Yes.
and also our physical health, and also our physical health influences that. So there's one point, and I know we have to finish up soon. So my closing remarks are that there's a huge link between our physiological health and our mental health, right? And the effects of stress and anxiety and trauma on our health is very, very real. And I think part of addressing the stigma in our communities is really emphasizing that something that they think is really important, which is physical health, right, is hugely influenced by our mental health. So Dr. Gabor Mate talks a lot about this. I highly recommend looking him up. He really explores the connection between what happens when we're traumatized and how that can manifest itself in our physical bodies. So even gene expression and stuff like that, like our environment
100%,
and our inside all influence how our immune system works throughout our life. So things that will affect you, that happen to you as a child, will be affecting you in the future. So doing that work, really focusing on that healing and that center, right? Strengthening your core, both physically and emotionally, but I'm talking mentally right now. Really strengthening that core is key to living the life and doing the healing that you need to be doing. So
100%. I really liked how you said that sometimes, because I know from a friend, she was telling me that her growing up, she only seen her mom in bed, but she thought her mom had an illness. And then her mom, when it was like, whenever, not every time, she would have a child, she would see her mom in bed for weeks and weeks, and she wouldn't understand it. And then she grew up, she was talking about somehow, like, some way it came up that her grandma and her great grandma had that. So they had the oh God, I can't remember the name. After that you give
postpartum depression.
Perfect, thank you. I was about to say something else. Perfect. So she realized that yes, they have it. So now that when she wants to have a child, she understands that, you know what, if it happens to me, how should I seek help? It's not just me getting tired of labor or getting tired of whatever. No. I need to go see a therapist. I need to talk about it. That now she has a better understanding of her family's mental health history. So this is very important, because sometimes, yes, you may be asking yourself, like, why is this happening to me right now? Yes, sometimes it happens for a reason, but at the same time, this can stem from family and generational traumas and mental health issues that you have no idea about, because nobody talks about it, because it's a stigma. Because you know what, you see my mom, see my grandma always in bed. Yeah, she's tired. Probably she's an old lady, probably whatever. But no, she probably has depression. She had probably anxiety. She sometimes didn't want to socialize with the neighbors because she had the social anxiety. She didn't like to see with people a lot. So yeah, so we have to sometimes do our research, but without pressuring the ones that we are asking. So, yeah.
I guess as for me, that that's the note I'll leave on. Final words. So I'll say, if you are not looking into the generational trauma, your family background, then if the trauma, then at that point the trauma then is going to be sustained, and then the impact is sustained at the same time. So you're not looking into the trauma is collecting with everything that's going on now, with everything that's going on within your family, and you're not dealing with it. And that's going to build and collect, and that impact is going to be even more difficult to grapple with. And you don't want that. So it's time to start healing, work towards healing. And also to just want to mention quickly, we're talking more about this next week. and that'll be on the 24th at the BIPOC mental health rally, and also talking about, you know, criminal justice, how racism plays into all this, and how the trauma is sustained because of the impact of what, you know, continuously goes on to separate us and harm us. And that's on the 24th at Shepherd's Park in Oak Park, Michigan at noon.
Awesome. Thank you, Ali. And I do want to mention that we didn't really get to dive into as much, although in your stories you did mention how the effect of your great-grandfather or your grandfather's death in the South, these structural issues hugely impact our mental health. And they're also the reason that we have such a hard time addressing it, because how do you address something like that, you know? So I see you doing the work, and I really, number one, am inspired to do it in my own community, in my own lineage, and to really address these issues, because generationally and structurally, it all condenses into our one being, our one psyche, you know, and we have to deal with these issues. And so I really hope for a better future for us. And I really hope that we have the strength to do the work. And I'm here, and we're all here, and you're here, and we're gonna do it. It's gonna stop with us. Hell yeah.
100%. I just want to say, and it's 110%. It's okay not to be okay. And I am 112% and proud of everyone that is going to therapy, who's doing their healing, even though nobody's seeing the work that you are doing. I am absolutely proud of you. You should be proud of yourself, because the work that you have done is amazing. And I truly am saying this just from one human being to another, whoever's hearing this. If you guys need any help, I know this group is definitely 100% there for you. You guys can email us, get us in touch with us. We are there for you, and there's 111 ways to get help. And please get the help that you need, because you truly do matter. And that alone is a big deal. So please get the help that you need and that you deserve. So please be there for yourself.
Amen. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you, Ali and Zeinab.
Thank you, Afeefeh. Thank you, Ali. Bye.
Bye.